Afternoon, everybody. It's Dave Whitmarsh from Whitmarsh Consulting Group, owner of Best Practice in HR. As part of my CEO interviews, I am bringing on somebody that I worked with a few years back and constantly have conversations with, Shri from Engagedly. Welcome, Shri.
Thank you, David. Good to be here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. You look good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us, how did you find yourself into this HR space?
That's interesting. I come from consulting, but not HR consulting, more technology and process consulting. So I worked with lots of Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 customers as part of my experience working at Big Five, and then worked for a healthcare IT services company and managed a lot of accounts and a lot of projects we did for this class of customers. And I noticed a distinct pattern with many of these, especially the larger ones. There was a disconnect between the employees and the managers. There was performance management wasn't really necessarily actively managed effectively. So that was an ongoing theme that I saw across all my clients doing that. And then a friend of mine started the company or started the concept of employee engagement product called Engagedly, and it's really piqued my interest. So we decided to really take that plunge and launch a product that would do that. So over the years, the product has evolved from purely being an employee engagement collaboration tool to a full system of engagement that includes a lot of the talent management aspects as well, like performance management, goal setting, gamification and rewards recognition, as well as LMS that we are building onto it as well. So very much an employee-centric platform.
Okay,
so that's my
I was just going to say, how long has Engagedly been around then?
Oh, we've been around for a little over 3 years as a company. Our product's been live for a little over 2 years. Obviously it took a year to build the product, the first version. So yeah, we've been pretty much January of 2016 is when we really launched the product widely, and we've been fairly successful.
Yeah, I remember speaking some time back ago, and you said that you'd eclipsed the 100 customer mark. So that's when it comes to software, that's usually a pretty good goal, right?
Yeah, thank you. Now we are well over that, almost inching towards 200. So it's been a good journey so far.
Right, and so, where do you find your market focusing more around performance management? Because you've sort of changed. You have a different approach on that. Maybe you might want to talk about your approach around performance management versus the traditional model.
Yeah, the traditional model is not so much performance management. It's really performance reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And there's very little management in the traditional models, to be honest. It's all based on a number-based system and predominantly done effectively to rate employees so that they can figure out how much raise they can give and justify whether they should be promoted or not promoted. So it's really a tool to support some other decisions that they may already have made, right, in some cases, or are they going to make based on budgets and positions available and all of that. The way we look at performance is we are a performance management, but really more of a performance enablement platform for employees. So I really like to call our platform a system of engagement and employee enablement platform. Really creates environments for employees to be more successful, right? So it's not just a review tool, although there is a component to that. But the ultimate thesis of the platform is to create an environment that provides frequent feedback by employees, nudges by the employees and the managers, and nudges employees to make sure their goals are properly aligned with the organizational objectives, gives the visibility to managers so they can be effective coaches to their employees, give the visibility to the executives so they can be better executives and better leaders in the organization to guide the employees on what they need to be doing to be successful. But at the same time, actively recognizing and rewarding employees when they do exhibit those positive behaviors and positive outcomes, right? And then couple that with learning and being able to give them tools so they can do better, they can learn and grow within the organization. One of the biggest disengagement factors that over and over shows up in many surveys is employees don't feel like they're learning and growing within the organization. So we want to also address that within this platform. So it's really a fairly broad approach to performance management, which is why even though we use the term performance management, performance appraisal, it's really a performance enablement solution.
Well, if you look at performance in general, right, or performance management traditionally, it does extend over to different categories, right? So it goes, one way to compensation, the other way to learning, so to have something that sort of links them together and have access to those different tools just is much more of a natural transition into
Yes.
Your holistic talent management versus just let's do your annual performance review, right? But having
Correct.
said all that, I imagine that you still sell all those modules individual if required, right?
If required, yes. Even though we don't really do it as much of those individual sales, because the value is really in coupling those different aspects to really create a better environment for the employees to perform better.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, if we need to sell performance appraisal or separately, we do that occasionally, for sure.
Right. And so what are some of the trends that or the shift in your, short 3 years that you've sort of seen a little more focus or more questions concerning, from the HR practitioners out there, where they seem to be, or what do they seem to be asking for more?
Yeah, I guess I'll actually back up there a little bit. It's what I've seen. The broader trend is that HR managers and HR executives are actually a little bit more enabled now than they used to be strategically within an organization. They're more of a strategic player rather than a person who just does payroll and recruitment and deal with employee issues. They're more strategic, additive, accretive value add to the organization. So they've been empowered to create systems that will create better organizations. I see that a lot. What that has led to is that now they have the authority and the responsibility to make decisions on systems and processes both, so that the employees and the managers and the executives and leadership all have tools for them to be successful in managing their teams. So management of teams was really not something that was an HR function to a great extent, historically speaking. You don't really think of that as HR function, but they really come into playing into that role where they're enabling these solutions to play as a team management, employee management solution as well. So the managers can really use those tools and the best practices to say, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that I'm optimizing the employees and the talent we have in the organization.
Cool.
So that, I think, is a big trend moving towards that. So they're moving, so the HR is moving from buying just review solutions to really to creating systems that actually help employees do their work rather than just a tool to do employee reviews. So a lot of the movement towards, like, for example, OKRs, goal setting tools, goal tracking tools that we have are really tools that are more applicable to project managers or HR or leaders or department managers or managers of teams. And then there's the new concepts that people have been starting to use more and more. It's not so much new, but people already do that. They do weekly status reports or weekly check-ins with employees. Now we have tools to really democratize that and institutionalize that across the board. So each manager and each department is not running their own weekly check-ins and status reports on their own processes, and it's unpredictable, inconsistent. So now we have tools and systems to do that, and HR is now stepping in to help managers and leadership make those decisions to have these consistent systems so that the organization is overall optimized.
Yeah. Well, when you have the option of continuous, feedback or continuous material, it gives really the power back to HR in order to do those, weekly or biweekly initiatives and reporting, versus when you do it every 6 months or yearly, right?
Right, right. Especially when you have, the organization's a lot more virtual now, right?
Yeah.
People are working like you and I are talking. Managers might be in one city, the employee might be in another city. Organizations are global, where teams work across different geographical and time zones. It's very hard to manage that if you don't talk often, because people can easily get disconnected into their own islands. So tools like these really help to really enable that, having these frequent check-ins, frequent feedback, ongoing dialogue around performance, but also behaviors, ongoing recognition. That's ongoing. So it's not like a service anniversary award, but it's really saying, hey, you exhibited this value of teamwork, or you stepped up to the plate when the customer really needed help. So we can now recognize you all hands event, right?
Yeah, very good. And so where do you see your product, being a technology solution? I'm sure that there's always updates and the next, next product add-on that you're sort of road mapping. Where is Engagedly going?
I think we have a lot of the tools in place. I think it's now making sure that it is serving a cohesive purpose of continuously improving employee and team performance.
Mm-hmm.
So focusing on that is going to be a key area for us, right? So enabling teams to do better. So by giving them better insights, better tools to do that, but also tying into the daily work, right? How can we tie it to the work they already do so that it's all reflected in there with the product itself, being tied into the ongoing activities that they're already working on. So a lot more integration within work instead of a standalone system.
Right.
I think is one big direction. And then we get access to a lot of the data as well. So that is very useful for the leadership, HR managers, department heads, where they can really see how employees are performing on a more continuous basis. And if there's misalignment, they can correct those issues rather quickly.
Yeah, totally. Now, so going back to your product, one of the things I remember when we spoke a couple of years back is your implementation was just incredibly quick compared to some of the older performance management systems. So tell us a bit about that, and if you'd even share a story of how somebody ramped up and got moving fast, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can name specific customers who moved fast. I mean, you can see a customer list on our website, some of them anyway. But I have implemented, there was actually a regional bank in Georgia. The CEO of the bank actually called me directly for the demo, which was kind of interesting. It was a small bank, so it wasn't huge. But he wanted a performance management system and, all these engagement aspects up and running fairly quickly. And so we had a demo on a Friday. We closed the deal on the call, which is it doesn't happen very often. And he was live on Monday, that next Monday. So
and how many employees would he have
had? He had a little less than 50, right? So it wasn't a huge bank. So that was a quick case study of how we could do that. But we still had to build all of the process and things in there to get it up and running. And educate his employees as well. We went live with hundreds of employees, several hundred employee customer within 2 weeks before. So we've done that as well. So we can, it really comes down to how fast the customer can move, because one of the things with a platform like ours, a solution like ours, we're introducing some new concepts, right, which organizations haven't really used before, like real-time feedback. They say, you should give feedback, but there's no tools to do that. So there's an organizational change management involved with enabling employees to feel comfortable to give feedback, for example. So certain things like that require some change management. It's not necessarily a technology issue, right, as much as it's a cultural change. Being able to set goals. Previously probably employees didn't have specific, measurable, smart goals set, right? So there's a training challenge there with employees to be able to set goals that are not some vague goals like do better in your job type of thing, right? It's more measurable, achievable goals. So things like that require some change management, some cultural, realignment, both for the employees as well as the leadership as well. And being able to, that the whole transparency that introduces within an organization is also a cultural shift where employees and managers probably didn't, feel like what they were doing necessarily was that visible to the executive team, but now it's going to be, right? And what the executives are doing and their behaviors can also be visible in the platform if the organization chooses to go down that path. So it really depends on how much where the organization itself is in their cultural journey and their readiness for this cultural shift. We can go faster or slower depending on all of that.
And I guess, my next question was going to be, talking a bit about, what you deem as your competitive advantage. And I would think that some of that, just that shift would be it, right? If you can get the buy-in to shifting the mindset and looking for continuous feedback and that has to be a key to elevate you into the top tier when you're doing a vendor selection. But I'll let you speak on what sort of seems to be your competitive advantage.
Yeah, competitive advantage really is a continuous approach to performance management, right? And having a platform that's easy to implement, easy to use, employees really like it. It's got a lot of gamification aspects and badges and collaboration type social aspects as well, which really employees can relate to from their non-work related life. And so it's easy adoption of the platform. It doesn't feel like you are using a review system. You really feel like you're using a system to help you build a better organization and you help build community that helps each other succeed, right? Mm-hmm. And that's is a big differentiator compared to some of the older traditional tools. But we've also taken the approach of taking a holistic system of, like, as I said, employee enablement. There, it's more than feel good and reviews. It's also about continuous learning through feedback, through coaching, through learning tools that we have within the system, where you can create, just micro learning and assign that to employees. You can do ongoing surveys to get a gauge of the employees, aspirations and their satisfaction and engagement within the organization. So there are several tools in there that help from multiple different dimensions, which ultimately is a strategic maneuver on the part of the leadership or the HR. And that's where we really play very well. So if you're looking for just a simple review platform, we are not necessarily a great fit for those organizations.
Gotcha. And so your role, running the company, what sort of opportunities or what are you sort of looking for out there? What's your day to day? Are you chasing consultants? You're working with, other people in the talent acquisition space or the big consulting firms or directly towards customer acquisition?
Well, most of our business is direct. We do get a lot of direct leads. A lot of them come through our website. They come through other referral partners, mostly digital referral partners. We have a little bit of an outbound as well. But one of the biggest goals I'm working on right now is to figure out, and not just figure out, but actually scaling our sales team given the process we have now. So we have a very consistent, repeatable sales process. So I've been working on how can I scale that. So I've been a lot of hiring going on as well. We are also going global. We just opened an office in Sydney, Australia as well. We already had a presence in India because that's where a lot of our, technical staff is as well. But we're looking at opening some more, sales offices and support offices in other parts of the world as well, including UK and EU and Middle East as well. So that's been a big push for us because I think this is applicable not just for the US or North American companies, but generally globally as well.
Yeah, well, I guess when I should go back and say, do you support multi-language?
We do. We support about 8 languages at present. So we have customers using multiple languages in the same company, because some of them have different offices where they speak different languages natively. So we natively support that within the platform.
Very cool. Is there anything else before we wrap up? Anything that you'd like to sort of say or like people to know about you guys? I know that you have a great educational webcast series and some stuff like that, so they can always follow you on Facebook or go to your website. You do a good job of pushing out good educational content. So, besides that,
there's a lot of content on our website. There's really good white papers on how you can really redesign your performance management process. So do download that white paper. It's engagedly.com, and you can look for our resources there. And then if you want to see your product, obviously, you can request a demo from our website as well.
Very cool. All right.
Thanks.
All right. Well, that's about all I got for you, Shri. So if there's anything that comes up or, down the road you want to update this, just reach out and we can do it there. But hope you have yourself a good Friday, and we'll talk later.
Awesome. Always a pleasure. Thanks, David.
All right, Shri.
Bye.